This year marks a special occasion because it's the 80th anniversary that the exercise took place. In 1986, 1987, the memorial was created here in the city. It was in the west end of the city, and 20 years later, it was moved down here to be part of Fort Taber Park with the care of the Veterans Advisory Board and the Fort Taber Fort Rodman Historical Association. So each year we have service here, and unfortunately over the last few years we have lost the remaining survivors that would come each year, but we do have quite a few of their family members with us. At this time, we'll be posting the colors. Mayor, permission to post the colors.
Post the colors.
Post the colors.
Forward. March. Guard. Halt. Reason. Arm. Sir, permission to post the color. Sir.
Post the colors.
Thank you, sir. Order. Arms. Center. Face. Ready. Pose. Guard. Hold. Post the color. Present. Arm. Order. Arms. Center. Face. Forward. March.
I'd like to now introduce the Reverend Father Michael Racine, pastor of the Holy Name of Sacred Heart, for the invocation.
Good to see so many people here this afternoon. Thank you for your presence. As we gather to remember this day of Exercise Tiger, we remember the 749 lives who lost their lives that day. Let us now pause for a moment of silent prayer. Loving God, 80 years later, we never forget the loss of our servicemen who gave their lives on that day. We remember those who continue to serve our country, both here in the States and abroad. We thank those who take part in this ceremony today. a reminder that we never forget. Make us continued instruments of your peace in our community, our nation, and our world each day. And always continue to protect those who serve our country so proudly each day. Amen.
Thank you, Father Mike. Please be seated. My name is Bob Brownlee. I'm chairman of the City of New Bedford Veterans Advisory Board. And starting in 2009, we've been tasked by the city to take on many of the observances and services for veterans throughout the city. But this can't be done by a single person alone or just a single board trying to organize everything. So one of our members, ex officio, Captain Peter Clark, I have as chairman of today's services. Peter.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. On behalf of Mayor John Mitchell, we'd like to welcome Secretary John Santiago of the Executive Office of Veteran Services, along with many of the various local veterans organizations. We thank you all for coming. When I was a student at the Combined Arms Staff Service School at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, that was a place where junior officers would go and learn how to plan and present information. And during the small group instruction, we had a lieutenant colonel who was our small group instructor. Each Friday, he would talk about and go over military history, and he would question us and we would provide answers. And it was towards the end of the class, and there was one question that he brought up. And I don't quite remember the exact way he worded it, but the question was, what was the deadliest training accident prior to World War II? I immediately raised my hand. I knew that. I said, sir, that's Exercise Tiger. And he said, out of all the years that he's been doing this class, that I was the first one to get that information, to get that question correct. And he goes, how did you know that information? How did you know that answer? And I said, one, I'm from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Two, is New Bedford, Massachusetts was the first of its kind to have a memorial dedicated to Exercise Tiger. And three, the city of New Bedford honors its servicemen and women throughout all conflicts. So that was a proud moment that I had being at that class, with peers. So that was a very good day for me. We're excited to have here today the Navy Band Northeast, led by musician first class Eric Sider. Also to my left in the rear, we have the Alpha Battery, the 101st Field Artillery Regiment out of Fall River. And we're also lucky enough to have members of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps from New Bedford High School, the oldest junior ROTC program in the country. Also, one of the goals that the Veterans Advisory Board has was we wanted to preserve the history of military operations and military history amongst the community, and we thought the best way we can do that is to get the younger generation to become involved. And that's why we have New Bedford High School Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps here today, led by Chief Warrant Officer 4, retired Mr. Justin Caverio. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to the stage Cadet Sergeant Kashif Kodroy, who's going to give you an Exercise Tiger history and narrative. Thank you.
In preparation for the invasion of Europe, two major dress rehearsals were scheduled.
one of which was Exercise Tiger, for the United States Army 7th Corps units, which included 30,000 service members. The assault exercises were held at Slapton Sets, West David, a beach area which was located along the southern coast of England and resembled conditions expected in the actual invasion of one of the 5 beaches of Normandy. In calm seas and fair visibility, during the early morning hours of April 28, 1944, following a pre-darkness assault by forces of the 4th Infantry Division. One of the convoys, a flotilla of 8 LSTs, cruised the English Channel. They were fully loaded with a force of engineers, chemical, and quartermaster troops, not scheduled for the assault, but to be unloaded in an orderly fashion, along with trucks, amphibious vehicles, jeeps, and heavy engineering equipment. For this realistic training exercise, the commanders had ordered use of live naval and artillery fire. In addition, soldiers also had high ammunition for their rifles and machine guns. During the exercise, 9 torpedo boats out of Cherbourg, France, learnings of heavy radio traffic were ordered to investigate the area. The night was broken by a call to general quarters on the LSTs as explosions and gunfire filled the sky. In the confusion of whether this was part of the practice assault or an attack, a great deal of response consisted of anti-craft fire aimed at enemy aircraft that did not exist. In reality, the German torpedo boats hit 3 LSTs, causing 2 to sink and badly damage one, which eventually limped back to port. Many soldiers and sailors were below deck and drowned, while others succumbed to the cold water. Contributing to the losses were the waterlogged overcoats and misplaced life belts that added to the number of casualties. There was also the lack of escort vehicles and typographical errors put the LSTs on the wrong radio frequency. The final tally included 198 sailors and 551 soldiers, a total of 749 dead, the costliest training incident in World War II. The strictest secrecy followed this tragedy for fear of the enemy knowing what it had accomplished. No one lifted the order of secrecy after the final invasion, and that time, the event received little attention until 1971. At that point, a British citizen, Ken Small, moved to a village of Slapton Sets. He discovered military-type debris on the beach and made inquiries as to the circumstances. After a great deal of communication with various individuals and relevant organizations, he learned the details of the tragedy. He wanted to honor these U.S. service members. Through this efforts and at his own personal expense, a Sherman tank that had located beneath the waters of Slapton Sets was recovered. He had it erected and dedicated in 1984 on a plot of land behind the beach as a memorial to the deceased service members of Exercise Tiger. The Exercise Tiger Memorial that we have today was a result of the late Joseph Theodore concept to establish a memorial in the United States. Mr. Theodore, a man of vision and patriotism, had mixed emotions and was saddened that this tragic story went basically unreported for all those years. He corresponded with Ken Small and received many of the details of the event and of the monument. Joe Theodore urged his fellow veterans and Americans to join him in seeking special recognition for Exercise Tiger. He started a letter writing campaign proposing special resolutions at all levels of government. Suddenly, he conceived the idea of twin monuments across the sea. So he formed an Exercise Tiger Memorial Committee composed of representatives from various veteran groups and the city of New Bedford, and the Exercise Tiger Memorial was the first in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cadet. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to the stage now the president of the Fort Rodman, Fort Tabor Historical Association, Army veteran, Mr. William Needwich.
I'm sorry, it takes me a couple of seconds to get moving. Okay, as he said, my name is Bill Nedwich. I'm the president of the Fort Tabor, Fort Rodman Historical Association and Military Museum. This year we are co-sponsors with the City of New Bedford of the event, and I would like to welcome everyone to the Exercise Tiger Memorial Service. This is the 80th anniversary. 80 years have passed. On April 28, 1944, a few short weeks before the D-Day invasion, these brave men of our armed services embarked on LSTs, landing ship tanks, on a training exercise at Stockton Sands in Devon, England, not knowing that 749 would never come back. The exercise was discovered and attacked by German Schnell boats, torpedo boats, scattering ships of the 8 LSTs involved. LSTs 507, 531 were sunk. The LST 289 was hit and damaged. After the attack, after the ships had scattered, two ships came back, a British and American ship came back. And they returned and began to pull survivors from the water. The problem was hundreds had already died. They either had drowned by their life belts flipping them up over, or they had succumbed to the ice cold water from hypothermia. The losses totaled 749 dead and hundreds injured. Exercise Tiger was the U.S. military's deadliest training incident during World War II, and probably is true to the training day. Now, I'm going to give a quote from General George S. Patton. "It is foolish and wrong to mourn men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men have lived." I would like to thank Mayor Mitchell, the City of New Bedford Veterans Advisory Board, and all the post personnel who had helped out with this event and make this event possible. The artillery, the Navy band, the Junior ROTC. After the ceremony, I would like to invite everyone into the museum for the official unveiling of the redesigned and redone and improved Exercise Tiger Memorial that we have done. We will also be unveiling a newly completed preservation of the 212 Field Artillery National Guard mural and map of their path from the landing at Utah Beach to the end of the war. There will also be refreshments served within the museum, coffee, and other things of that nature. Again, I would like to thank you all. Have a great day.
As part of our guest speakers and keynote speakers program, first one is our Mayor of the City of New Bedford, John Mitchell.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here today. You're a little chilly. Let's all look at the bright side. It's not raining out here, but it's so wonderful to see such a large crowd for this event. It is an event that really has sustained its following over the years. I want to just offer a couple of words of thanks to folks who put this together, starting with Peter Clark and Ron Bromley and the entire Veterans Advisory Board, along with our Director of Veteran Services, Chris Gomes, who was unable to make it here today, but they put in a lot of work to make it just so. The Military Museum, Bill, great work as always. Everything looks so squared away, and I just want to ask everybody for another round of applause for all their dedication and hard work. I want to thank you, Mr. Secretary, for joining us for this auspicious occasion, and as well as thank you again for the Navy Band for joining us as they have in years past, along with the 101 FA. I want to recognize some of the officials who are here, our Superintendent of Schools, Andrew Leary, City Councilors Joe Lopes and Linda Morad, who are both here as well, and who have unfailingly supported veterans' causes over the years, as well as State Representative Chris Hendricks and Tony Cabral, of course, both of whom, again, are right there when veterans need them. This is one of these events where it's hard not to feel the pride of both your country and your city. So this was, when you think about this incident, it was a training exercise. When anyone signs up to serve, it is inevitably a thought occurs to them how they might, the possibility of not coming back at some point if deployed, and especially in wartime, that is so. I suspect it is not the case, though, that one would entertain the possibility that one would die in a training exercise. It is not something that's associated with service or the courage and the glory of war, as folks conceive of it, that it would come to anyone's mind. And so this was an unusual event, not just because of that, but more particularly because it was kept classified for so many years afterward, long after it was necessary to keep it secret. And so, we're here today. Americans recognize Exercise Tiger because we want to make sure together that those folks were not forgotten. Those soldiers and Marines and sailors who lost on those vessels are given their due, and that is entirely fitting and appropriate that we do that. But I wish to underscore something that others have touched upon, which is that there's no special reason that this is in New Bedford. In other words, this monument could be anywhere in the United States. There were sailors and others who were lost, soldiers and Marines who were lost on those vessels from all across the United States. But it's our city, Joe Theodore's leadership, that made it happen here. And I think it just underscores, for me, as well as for everybody who's come to these events over the years, what a special place New Bedford is. We not only remember, but we show up. And you're showing up today. You're showing up in ways that demonstrate to everybody, including those who might serve in future wars, that standing up, swearing an oath to defend the country and its Constitution matters. What they did mattered. And what you are doing today shows everyone that you agree to, that service to country, service to preserve our republic and our way of life is absolutely necessary, and it's something that we should exalt as a society. So I want to thank everybody for being here today, for showing up and demonstrating to everybody what it means to contribute back to your republic. Thank you.
As the mayor has indicated, we have two city councilors present, Linda Moran, Councilor at Large, and Joseph Lopes, who is the council of Ward 5. Both councils have been tremendous supporters of any of the veterans' activities in the city, as well as activities down here at the museum, as well as Chris Hendricks, our state rep, and our state rep, Tony Cabral, who I'm going to call up here to say a couple of words, who has never failed to attend any service that the museum has put together or the Veterans Advisory Board has put together.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. Let me begin by also recognizing my colleague, Chris Hendricks, and a big thank you to the advisory board, the Mayor's Advisory Board, and to the Fort Tabor, Fort Rodman Military Museum for collaborating and supporting this event today. This is a very important day for all of us every year in New Bedford. I want to tell you that the good folks of this city are proud of all of us for understanding how important it is for us to stop in time and recognize the sacrifices that those 749 individuals paid with their lives. It is, a matter of fact, important. Just because it was a secret exercise at the time, it is important for us to remember those individuals, and I know that all of you here, that's the reason why you are here. Your service is important, recognizing and celebrating and paying respect and remembering those who serve so we can live the way we live in this country and the way we defend the free world. It's because of all those men and all those women that every day, including those who are serving today, every day get up and they know their mission. So I think it's important, and I know that you, every single one of you, when I go across, I deal with my colleagues up in the State House and the folks that I come across, they know and they understand what we do in New Bedford when it comes to veterans. And they respect that, they admire that, and they support that. One of those colleagues of mine used to be Secretary John Santiago. He was a member of the legislature before he was appointed by the governor to head the new secretariat. And it was an act of the legislature that elevated the Department of Veteran Services to a secretary level. It was an initiative of the House of Representatives in Massachusetts because we felt that was that important. So I want you to know that I have every year, every day, legislative priorities, right? That I have to act on and fight for. Veteran services and veteran issues is always on that list, every day, every week that I serve on your behalf. And it will always be on that list, on the top of that list. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let's really not only remember but celebrate these men that paid with their lives. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to read the bio of Secretary John Santiago, MD, MPH. Secretary Santiago was sworn in by Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor King Driscoll as Massachusetts' first Secretary of the Executive Office of Veteran Services on March 1st, 2023. Secretary Santiago is a lifelong public servant who brings an unwavering commitment to ensuring that Massachusetts veterans have access to services and benefits worthy of their service to our nation. Most recently, he served as Massachusetts State Representative for the 9th Suffolk District, Boston, where he advocated to increase funding and services to address the substance use epidemic, affordable housing, and tackle health disparities. Secretary Santiago is a board-certified emergency medicine physician who practices at Boston Medical Center, the city's safety net hospital and New England's busiest trauma center. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, he doubled his hours in the emergency room and served as a member of the House of Representatives COVID-19 Working Group and Vice Chair of the COVID-19 Committee to advise policymaking and ensure state government accountability. Prior to completing medical school at Yale University, he spent 5 years abroad, including service as Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic and is a Fulbright Scholar in Paris. He is currently a major in the United States Army Reserve and has deployed overseas twice. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Secretary John Santiago.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mitchell, elected officials, Peter, residents of New Bedford, veterans and families gathered here today. Thank you for the invitation to partake in today's commemoration, marking such a tragic yet important day in our nation's history. Less than a month from today, we will pay homage to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. For over 150 years, Memorial Day offers us an opportunity to publicly honor those who served and laid down their life. And for many people, including those who served like myself, that day, despite how solemn it may be, can feel abstract, maybe a little disconnected at times. Now you may ask why. Perhaps it's because the symbols that represent that sacrifice are slowly leaving us. The greatest generation who endured the Depression, landed on Normandy, and sailed the seas of East Asia, many of them are no longer with us. Those who served in Korea and Vietnam are only getting older. And although the war on terror continues, never before in American history have so few people served. It's not that the sacrifice we honor on Memorial Day has any less value. That will never be true. But as time passes, and those who represented that sacrifice begin to fade away, it becomes even more important for us, the recipients of their sacrifice, to tell their stories and to make it a living history. And as we do so, by recounting tales of bravery and tragedy, we do so not only to remember, but we retell them because they inspire us. They remind us that there is something so much bigger than ourselves, something worth fighting for, and yes, at times, something worth dying for. And while Memorial Day embodies this tradition, so does today, April 28th, and what happened 80 years ago. To be honest with you, I wasn't very familiar with Exercise Tiger before receiving today's invitation. I had only been to New Bedford a handful of times, and just once as secretary. But during that visit, it was evident to me that the people of New Bedford, its mayor, its elected officials, its neighbors and families, have a certain reverence for our military, our veterans, and their shared sacrifice. And as I began to learn more about Exercise Tiger and the loss of life, I could not but think about how sacred, yet how full of risk, the oath is that our military undertake. And how no matter where our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines may be, whether in distant lands or on American soil, their job and duty puts them at risk. And therefore we, as beneficiaries of their service, must owe them a debt of gratitude. But 80 years ago today isn't solely about honoring the lives of almost 800 soldiers and sailors. In fact, it would be a disservice to them and our military if that was all we did today. To me, it's also about understanding that tragic mistakes were made and that it is incumbent upon us, our civilian and military leadership, to be honest, transparent, and to take responsibility for one's action, especially when the consequences involve life and death. So for me, it's important that the city of New Bedford comes together annually to retell the story of Exercise Tiger. And as I said earlier, you retell these stories not only to remember and pay tribute, but to learn something and be inspired. And I can't help but think about this particular obligation since swearing in as secretary. As many of you know, we lost over 100 veterans at both soldiers' homes during the height of COVID-19. Like Exercise Tiger, mistakes were made that uncovered systemic failures leading to tragic consequences. But the true test of leadership is not so much how we act when things are going well, rather, it's how we respond to failure. Since day one of our administration, Governor Healy has prioritized our veterans. It's because of her leadership that we now have the first ever Secretary of Veteran Services. It's because of her vision that we are investing more in veteran services than ever before. And when I took my oath, my orders were explicit to ensure that Massachusetts veterans would get the services and attention they deserve. And as I sat and listened to the families of those veterans we had lost during COVID, it became very clear to me that although we can't change the past, we can shape the future. this past year has been precisely about shaping that future. As we built the first ever Secretariat of Veteran Services, I'm proud that we've secured federal funding to build a brand new state-of-the-art facility at Holyoke. It's currently underway and ahead of schedule. I'm proud that we expedited the construction of the new Massachusetts Veterans Home at Chelsea and opened it last year. It is literally one of the most amazing long-term facilities you'll ever see. More importantly, I'm proud that we've implemented systems, policies, and leadership prepared to take on any challenge that awaits us, be it a virus or something out of our control. I'm proud that we created an engagement office that, along with me and the Deputy Secretary, have toured the state to listen to our veterans and learn. Because for me, leadership begins with listening. And I'm proud that our existing programs are more efficient and accessible, and that we've also created new programs and services to work with education and employment. Since becoming Secretary, our call to action has been clear, and the work continues. Fortunately, we have partners all across the state, including the city of New Bedford, Mayor Mitchell, Representative Cabral, Representative Hendricks, and nonprofits like your very own Veteran Transition House, which makes my job easier and that much more rewarding. Because at the end of the day, it's through trust and partnership that we are able to best support our veterans. And days like today, where we can come together to commemorate what happened 80 years ago, is a sacred reminder that yesterday's events still matter very much today. And for that, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Santiago. What Secretary Santiago didn't mention is a sweeping piece of legislation that has been brought up that was written by Secretary Santiago and Governor Maura Healey and supported by Representatives Chris Hendricks and Representative Cabral, is the HEROES Act. It's honoring and empowering and recognizing the veterans and their families. This piece of legislation, when approved, is going to help all of the veterans that are here right now. And this piece of legislation is an important step in another reason why Massachusetts is leading the way in supporting their veterans. So I would like to personally thank Secretary Santiago and Representatives Hendricks and Cabral for their efforts in this piece of legislation. So ladies and gentlemen, we are about to enter into our honors portion of today's service. We would like to recognize if there are any Merchant Marine veterans or family members of any World War II veteran, please stand and be recognized. Like most communities, the greater New Bedford area has had soldiers and sailors and Marines who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and we would like to read a roll call of those veterans at this time. These veterans were killed in action during the global war on terror. Army Sergeant Joseph Camara, New Bedford. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Michael Ford, New Bedford. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Patrick Gallagher, Fairhaven. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Matthew Rodriguez, Fairhaven. Navy Petty Officer Second Class Tyler Trahan, Freetown. Army Specialist Peter Enos, Dartmouth. Our departed members of the 1st Exercise Tiger Committee, Mr. Joseph Theodore, United States Navy. Mr. Norman Chartier, United States Army. Mr. Jamie Rigo, United States Navy. Mr. John Starks, United States Navy. And Mr. Robert Fredericks, United States Navy. As well as departed members of the New Bedford Veterans Advisory Board, Mr. William Morin, United States Navy, World War II. Mr. Oliver Moreau, United States Navy, World War II. Mr. Howard Prescott, United States Army, Korea. Mr. Norman Naidu, United States Navy, Korea. Mr. Louis Ferreira, United States Army, World War II. Colonel Grace Regan, United States Air Force, Vietnam. Also, our distinguished guests that we have, family members, the Ricciardi family, Vincent Jr. and Mrs. Elaine Boley, children of machinist mate, first class Vincent Ricciardi. Mrs. Suzanne Williams and her husband Dale, daughter of pharmacist mate first class William O'Connor of LST 54. Chief of Police for the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, Chief John Souza, nephew of Petty Officer First Class Louis Souza, and Louis's sister, Mrs. Thelma LeBruck, and Louis's niece, Miss Catherine McGreevy. At this time, we will lay the memorial wreath. Secretary Santiago, Mayor Mitchell, families of William O'Connor, Louis Souza, and Vincent Ricciardi, please come to the wreath.
As we take our seats, I'd like to call in the Reverend Father Michael Racine to give us our benediction for today.
As we have learned today to remember, to forgive, knowing that mistakes were made. We never forget those who have given their lives, and through this most solemn ceremony that we have just witnessed in our hearts, we ask the Lord to always give us his peace, to make his face shine upon us, and to bless each and every one of us as we continue in our daily lives, but always to remember our great patriotism that we share in our city of New Bedford. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
As we close today's services, I would also like to thank Dale and Rob Snyder, as well as Andrew McCabe, who are reenactor World War II Honor Guard here at the memorial. And Mitchell, permission to retire the colors. Retire the colors. Retire the colors.
Onward, march. Guard, hold. Present, arms. Sir, permission to retire the colors. Sir,
Retire the colors.
thank you. Sir. Order, arms. Center, face. Ready, post. Guard, hold. Retire the colors. Center, face. Forward, march.
Again, thank you for participating today with us. We invite everyone over into the Military Museum. We have two unveilings that will be happening immediately, as well as we have refreshments and pastries on the inside. Again,
Okay, can I have Miss Pascola and Miss Hamill? Okay, before we unveil this, Miss Pascola and Miss Hamill were the ones who worked on it for the Northeast Document Conservation Center. I'll get it right one of these years. Did a fantastic job. Now, I would like to thank the City of New Bedford, Mayor Mitchell, the New Bedford City Council, the Community Preservation Committee, Jessica Bailey, the Community Preservation Act Supervisor, Northeast Document Conservation Center, Ms. Hamill, Ms. Pascola, for the impressive work in preserving a one-of-a-kind historical document.
I do want to mention that there's some members here from the what used to be the Holland Chapter National Guard veterans. They were made up of veterans of the 211, 212 Field Artillery. In 2007, the surviving World War II veterans of that battery brought this map into us with the hope that we would somehow show it to the public so we wouldn't forget. It's a treasure. We will have no problems forever showing it. And because of the age, we now have it conserved, and it will be preserved here for the general public to see anytime they want to come in and see this history. Today with us, helping us to unveil, is also Colonel Lee, who is a member of the 211th Field Artillery. And we have, again, Mayor and
Secretary Santiago will help us a bit. There's one other individual too I'd like to thank is Mr. Dennis Udon of the NC Udon Crane and Rigging for helping us properly mount it to the wall, because that is heavy. I can ask these two individuals who worked on it.
That's right.
It is extremely heavy, and he did a fantastic job of mounting it. The 212 Field Artillery, a little history on it, was the New Bedford National Guard, right, Massachusetts National Guard, who left and joined the 6th Armored Division and became the 212th Armored Field Artillery, which was using the M7 Priest. They traveled and they kept a listing of all of their travels from Utah Beach all the way to the end of the war. When it does come off, there's going to be like some little stuff coming off because that was the only way we could have it. Hold on there, folks. Please, ladies.
Watch behind you.
Yes, it's gonna have some foam stuff to put on.
Hope it's insured.
There we go.
It's caught on that middle.
As you can see, on the thing, we actually gave the thank yous to all 3 groups. So I would like to make sure that everybody understands. Now, for the CPA people, get ready. Another one's coming at you. I mean, this is what the CPA does. This was literally falling apart. The canvas is called 29-ounce canvas. For every square yard, it's supposed to weigh 29 ounces. It doesn't even weigh 29 ounces, the whole thing anymore. That's how deteriorated it is. This is now sealed, and it'll be forever. Again, thank you, the City of New Bedford. Thank you, CPA, for getting this done. Please get the time. Go around the museum, see some of the new displays and new things we have. We're adding things all the time. Recently, actually, if you go into the other room, there is a display with a B-29 and a B-2 bomber. And in there, I donated from my own collection, is a piece of the actual first atomic bomb, Trinity. Okay, and I've actually donated to the museum. I had 3 pieces. I gave one. It's a little tiny piece about this big, but it's actual from the bomb itself. After it went off. So, and there's no radioactivity, folks. We don't worry about that. Actually,
He thinks.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
I've been here in a while.
Enjoy the museum.
I could spend days if you look at
How you doing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. And he moved to California. Yeah.